You know, I'm a CPA. I work with numbers all day long. I love the logic, the predictability of it. It's comforting. For me, a spreadsheet isn't just data, it's a map to a secure future. I always believed that building a life was like compounding interest, slow, steady, and inevitable if you just stick with it. My fiancée, Chloe, saw it differently. We were engaged for a little over a year, living in a nice little condo just outside of Boston. I had the 5-year plan mapped out: upgrade the house, maximize the 401k match, pay down the mortgage aggressively. It was solid, it was safe. And that, apparently, was the problem. David, she'd say, rolling her eyes while scrolling through Instagram, your life plan is beige, it's oatmeal. When are we going to actually live? I tried to explain. Honey, we're building a foundation. We're getting 3% returns on the mutual funds, but that's guaranteed. That's reliable growth. She'd just scoff. 3%. That's what a checking account pays. You act like taking a risk is a moral failing. You don't have the guts to play the real game, David. That phrase, the real game, became the soundtrack to our relationship's slow decay. See, Chloe had met this guy, Rex, through her networking group. Rex wasn't a CPA. Rex was a day trader. He wore custom suits, drove a leased Maserati, and talked with this smooth, adrenaline-fueled confidence about leveraged positions and finding alpha. I tried to warn her. I ran the numbers. I showed her the volatility charts. I explained that what Rex was doing wasn't investing. It was sophisticated gambling, and the house always wins eventually. But Rex spoke the language she wanted to hear. Instant millions. He promised private jets, villas in Tuscany, and retiring before we hit 40. I promised a fully funded college savings account and no debt by 55. Guess which pitch won? The comparisons started subtle, then they became brutal.
Rex just made enough today to buy that watch you've been saving for all year, David, and you're sitting here stressing about whether we should switch from Index Fund A to Index Fund B. One night, we were supposed to be finalizing the catering menu for the wedding. We were sitting at the kitchen table, looking at pictures of centerpieces, and she just snapped.
I can't do this, David. I can't marry a coward. I felt like I'd been punched. Cowardly? I work 60 hours a week providing stability. What's cowardly about responsibility? She threw her hands up, knocking over a glass of water. Your discipline isn't responsible, David. It's fear. It's fear of losing, so you refuse to even try to win big. Rex understands that money is meant to be used, not tucked away like some squirrel hoarding nuts. He's fearless. He's taking chances, and he's winning. She slid the engagement ring across the table. It didn't clink. It just whispered across the polished wood, stopping right at the edge of my place setting. I'm leaving. I'm going with Rex. He's moving to Miami next week, and I'm going with him. He's got a penthouse, David, a penthouse. And you're still talking about refinancing our condo. And just like that, she was gone. She packed a couple of suitcases, called an Uber, and traded the predictable, steady foundation of our life for the shaky, glittering promise of a man who played the stock market like a slot machine. For a while, I was devastated, humiliated even. She had called my entire value system into question. Was I boring? Was I too cautious? Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't have the guts to play the real game. I threw myself into work. I started running 5 miles a day. I kept checking my portfolio, which, bless its boring heart, kept inching up by that reliable 3% or 4%. It was a constant, solid fact in a world that had suddenly become chaotic.
I sold the condo, took the equity, and bought a smaller place, just enough space for me. I stopped planning for 2 people and started planning for 1. And suddenly, the financial freedom felt immense. I realized my discipline wasn't a cage, it was insulation. Meanwhile, I'd see glimpses of Chloe and Rex on social media. Champagne toasts, yacht pictures, designer clothes, always tagged in some exotic location. Dubai one week, the Caribbean the next. They were living the high-stakes life. Rex would post motivational quotes about crushing the weak and financial freedom through leverage. I just shake my head, thinking about the massive risk exposure they must have had. Then came the fall. It wasn't a slow recession. It was a sudden, violent correction. A black swan event, they called it on the news.
Some geopolitical mess combined with a massive tech bubble bursting. The market didn't just dip, it cratered. I watched the news with a strange detachment. My clients were calling, panicked, but because I had them diversified and conservatively allocated, their losses were manageable, maybe 10 to 15%, painful but recoverable. I checked my own accounts. I was down maybe 8%. Annoying, sure, but my job was secure, my cash flow was fine, and my long-term strategy remained untouched. I was sheltered. Rex, however, wasn't. Rex had been running on pure high-octane leverage. He wasn't just investing, he was borrowing huge amounts of money to amplify his bets. When the market went down, he didn't just lose his money, he lost the bank's money too. The story broke a few weeks later. It wasn't just the financial papers, it was the local news. Rex wasn't just wiped out, he was completely underwater. His assets were seized, the penthouse leased, the Maserati repossessed. Worst of all, his aggressive high-risk fund management was now under investigation for reckless trading and potential securities fraud. He wasn't just broke, he was facing serious legal trouble.
I didn't hear from Chloe for months after that. The social media accounts went dark. The flashy lifestyle vanished like smoke. Then, one rainy Tuesday afternoon, she showed up at my office building. I was grabbing coffee, and there she was, standing under the awning, looking completely different. Not the glamorous Miami girl, but tired. Her clothes were simple, and she had that hollow look of someone who's just spent time in a disaster zone. "David," she said, her voice small. I stopped. I hadn't seen her in nearly 2 years. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" I tried to keep my voice neutral, professional. She stepped closer, her eyes wet. "I needed to talk to you. I'm back in town. Everything is gone, David. Everything." I nodded slowly. "I saw the news about Rex. I'm sorry." "Sorry?" She gave a bitter laugh. "You were right. You were right about everything. It wasn't a game. It was a mirage. He was always one margin call away from zero. And when it hit, he didn't just lose his money. He lost mine too. Every penny I had saved, every piece of jewelry he ever bought me, gone. Even the things I left behind here, I sold them just to keep up with the lifestyle for a little while." She looked down at her hands, twisting a thin silver bracelet. "I was stupid, David. I traded security for spectacle. I traded your honesty for his fantasy. Your boring, steady 3% returns. That was protection. That was real wealth, not his dead-field delusion." She looked up at me, hope flickering in her eyes, and I knew exactly what she was about to ask. "I know I messed up. Terribly. But maybe we could talk. Maybe we could try again. I see now that what you had, what we had, was so much more valuable than all that noise." The old David, the one who was humiliated and heartbroken, wanted to grab her, forgive her, and welcome her back into the safety net he had built. But the new David, the one who had spent 2 years rebuilding his confidence, his independence, and his self-respect, just saw the truth. She didn't miss me. She missed the insurance policy I represented. She missed the predictability that she had once scorned as cowardly. I took a breath. The rain was drumming softly on the awning above us. "Chloe, I appreciate you saying that. I really do. It took a lot of guts to come here and admit that." She smiled faintly, a flash of the old Chloe returning. So no, I finished gently. "We can't try again." Her face fell immediately. "Why not? I understand now. I've learned my lesson." "I know you have, and I'm glad you learned that lesson, Chloe. But you didn't learn it with me. You learned it out there, chasing something that wasn't real. And when you came back, you didn't come back because you missed me. You came back because you missed the stability that my financial discipline provides." I paused, making sure she understood this wasn't bitterness, but clarity.
When you called my discipline cowardly and walked away, you didn't just end the engagement. You ended my respect for you. You showed me that when things got tempting, you chose the thrill over the foundation. I'm not angry anymore, but I've moved on. I found peace in my own life, and I'm not going to jeopardize that by bringing back someone who fundamentally doesn't value who I am, only what I can provide when the fantasy fails. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a $20 bill, and handed it to her. Take this. Get a cab. I wish you well, Chloe. I hope you find the stability you need, but you need to build it yourself. This time. I turned, walked back inside the warm lobby of my office building, and left her standing there, in the rain.
I got back to my desk, opened my computer, and checked the numbers. Steady as a rock. That boring, beautiful, responsible 3% return was still compounding, securing my future and ensuring my peace. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't a coward. I was a winner. I had played the long game, and I had won the only thing that truly mattered, my own self-respect.